Okay. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you guys can see me. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're looking forward to today. So thank you guys for being here. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the world you are. Thank you again for joining us today. I am Monique Sherman, Head of Marketing at Automation Hero. You may just be starting to learn about automation in the legal field, or you might already have some technology in place. But I want to first emphasize is that technology will not automate the legal profession away. Instead, it will facilitate growth and productivity by increasing accuracy and driving efficiency. But even more importantly, it will provide the ability to focus on more complex, higher value work to solve your clients' legal and business problems. It doesn't matter if you work at a large legal firm or if you're part of a legal team within a corporation, or if you are somehow else involved with legal documents. There are fundamentally very time-consuming and manual processes that you have to deal with. With that, we want to show you how intelligent automation can help. But before we kick off, I'd like to give some quick introductions and background on our speakers. We've got Martin Bartesco, who is our in-house advisor in the insurance field, but he has extensive experience in the legal as a former attorney leading both his own practice and corporate legal departments. Since then, he's held a number of positions in Ergo, the primary insurance group of Munich Re, including as former CEO as Alaska Insurance in Germany. He now consults for companies around insurtech, digitization, innovation management, and leadership, and he's also consulted in Silicon Valley. Ben Archer leads our sales efforts in the Southeast and has spent a number of years consulting with companies around emerging tech, including AI, automation, and advanced analytics. He's a recipient of multiple President Club awards. And Henning Gabriel is our lead solution architect. His expertise is in engineering and data science, where he's helped global clients kickstart their digital transformation journey with analytics, automation, and AI. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. So just a few logistics before we kick off. We want to make sure that we use the most, we make the most use of your time. So please don't hesitate to send in any questions via the chat or the Q&A option. You should see that at the bottom of your screen. We do have a Q&A section at the end, so we'll answer them all then. If for some reason we are not able to answer your questions in the time allotted, please note that we will follow up with you separately at the end, so don't hesitate. And then, you know what? Just a quick snapshot of what we're going to be covering today. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Ben.
Thanks, Monique. Let me pull up my screen here. And you all should be able to see that now. So thank you, Monique. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here and to chat with you all or give you all a little bit of a view into kind of the state of the business right now for legal professionals. And then obviously hand it off to my esteemed colleagues for some additional kind of wonderful details around that, as well as showing you a little bit of what we can do. So I think, looks like this is not, well, cool. So I think it's really interesting to start off by just talking about or recognizing that as Gartner has that 80% of all data globally will be unstructured by 2022. And that's rather significant. Data in and of itself is the lifeblood of an organization. It's what we all base decisions around. And that's very true for legal professionals as a whole. And unstructured data and specifically is something that is just compounding with significant growth. And these are things, you know, just as simple as documents, emails, images, audio files, et cetera. And certainly things that
Hey,
are
sorry, Ben, really quick, Ben, I think you need to actually switch your screens. Sorry.
Oh, is it not?
Perfect. I think now we've got it. Oh, wait, not yet. There we go. Awesome.
Is that?
Except for play. I mean, we can see her. Yeah. Let's do, I think you need to switch one more. There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Weird. Well, sorry about that. So, I think that because of the expanding volumes of unstructured data, it's an incredibly difficult thing for organizations to be able to extract that value that's necessary without having to do that very manually today. And so the biggest takeaway that you should all have from this session is really that rather than going down all of those manual processes, perhaps you can look at advancements that have been made with artificial intelligence specifically in order to help. So a recent survey of several hundred legal professionals across the US and Europe examined the trends that are affecting the future of law as the industry overall undergoes pretty significant transformation. And it was asking the question of how well prepared legal organizations are to drive and deliver high performance. The report includes insights from these professionals, and I think that one of the most relevant takeaways from that was that less than a third of all lawyers believe their organization is prepared to keep pace with the changes in the legal market. And that's pretty staggering considering the amount of change that is anticipated as the study found out. And some of those can really be boiled down to, or some of the takeaways can really be boiled down to these three areas here, which is, data security. So, keeping up with the proliferation of technology and data in and of itself is difficult, but due to security concerns, lack of technical resources around that, and limited IT budget, those tend to make it more difficult for organizations, especially legal professionals, to really extract that value. I think that the good news is that you don't have to be a data scientist or an IT specialist in order to make use of some of the advancements in AI, and we'll get into that in a little bit. I think that in another study that we came across, 82% of legal professionals believe that the greater use of technology will change how they deliver service. And maybe just one last kind of comment along that is that it's interesting that nearly 2/3 of those legal professionals cite AI as that transformational technology to have an impact on their organization over the next 3 years. And yet less than a fifth of those legal professionals really understand what actually AI is and what it can actually do for their organization. And so perhaps to help with that, I thought I would share or turn this over to my colleague Martin to talk a little bit more about that before we get into a demo.
Yeah, hello, welcome from my side too. So happy to have you all on board here, and thanks for handing over to me. Ben, you are still clicking for me, thanks. So what do we see? A lot of siloed tools, all the legal tech companies, and there are a lot, and the definition is not really 100% clear, but they do a lot of that stuff in silos. So like the contract lifecycle management or calendar management or document comparison whatsoever. So what they do is they specify, not so fast, Ben, please. So what they do is they specify in certain areas, and our approach is to think, what about having a platform for you which offers an end-to-end solution and helps you in running all those different kinds of tasks which you have, and also a different kind of documents. So next one, please. So that's why we reach out and trying to solve this kind of end-to-end solution for you. So if you are working in, as Monique said, in a legal department of a huge group of companies, or if you run your law firm, or if you're a specified law firm in litigation or M&A or whatsoever, or also in finance industry where you have a lot of tons of legal documents, it all comes along with tons of inbox, and this inbox may be an email, it may be handwritten. So I will show you on the next slides what it could all look like. But what you have is tons of incoming letters, and what you need to do is then to classify that. So what's that about? And we are doing that with AI models and can help you on that, and run a lot of the different things like the document comparison and intelligent search or calendar reminders. So what we are seeing always with legal stuff is, of course, the calendar reminders. So what would it look like, the world, if this would be all automated? and the incoming post checks, let's say, the court terms and makes you automated reminders and all that stuff. Also, the work which when I worked as a lawyer, hated the most was compare documents. So I have these kind of 20, 30 sheet legal agreements and then have to compare the red lines and the final versions without redlining. So is this the same? What's the content? Or if I was looking for a specific clause or even term in the agreement, I did not have that kind of search. So I'm not talking about the general search function, but the intelligent search, which we'll show you later. And all what we are doing here in this end-to-end solution, we can play back to you via an intelligent assistant, which we call Robin, so that every employee or you as a lawyer is involved in the total process. So that means we do it the end-to-end, and the documents which we can run through our system. Ben, next one, please. This could be anything, so any kind of documents. It can be all the correspondence, recurring documents, like which one you may love most, the client authorization, and even the terms in it, and the payments and so on. It can be everything which is coming from court, like the judgments or time periods, payments. Financially, the invoices, all forms which you have in general, and that is everything which you receive. And some years ago we thought, great, we have digitized our business because we have a PDF file. So today we know that those data in the PDF file are not structured. And what we are doing is structuring those data in order to make it usable for you. And some examples for the documents would be on the next slide, where we can show you. So how could a document look like? It could be in power of attorney, it could be in payment authorization, some invoice, also cancellation letters in handwriting, medical forms. So in the end, it could be anything, also going to long agreements of tons of pages. So what we are trying to do is in this kind of end-to-end process, which we will show on the next slide also, that we structure those data for you and how it looks like, and what kind of elements we need in our end-to-end solution. This is something Ben will show you on the next slide.
Yeah, so thank you, Martin. So just to kind of wrap that up before we get into the demo portion, we really think of the elements of an end-to-end solution in terms of the humans that are part of the process. So this in a legal firm or a legal team within a corporation are the the paralegals, it's the lawyers, it's all of those folks that are part of reviewing the incoming various forms of documents and unstructured data. Being able to intelligently allow them to or help them to extract that information that's relevant to the work that they're working on from those documents. Being able to build various workflows around that. So having that easy way to ingest various rules so that you can route information to specific teams for review. Being able to integrate that within your broader environment. So what are the different places where some of this data might need to be stored, as a database, or does it need to be pushed out to various folks? Martin talked about creating calendar invites, and so being able to integrate into your calendaring system so that you can extract key information from those documents and then perhaps populate into a calendar for review by a lawyer or by a paralegal. And then obviously, when you're as you go through this process, it's important to understand kind of what the various KPIs are that you're marching against. Being able to mine some of those processes to understand what the end results might be, ultimately, so that you can feed this kind of continuous loop here to become more intelligent about how do you work smarter and faster, and be able to take on hopefully more work, more clients, et cetera. So I will stop here and turn it over to Henning.
Yes, thank you. Let me share my screen. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Martin just explained a couple of examples how you could use Automation Hero or generally AI and automation to help you and assist you in various kinds of use cases like intelligent reminders or intelligent search, for example, or automated redlining, find the different pieces in two different documents where the changes are, for example, and so on and so on. So what I would like to do here now is to walk you through briefly through an example of how such a use case would look like to an end user, and also what it very briefly would look like in the AI backend, so you get an impression how that looks like. Yeah, walk you through that end to end, and then explain a couple more use case examples, and then hopefully this leads into a discussion with more ideas how you could use automation and AI. So this use case here I would like to highlight is, imagine you receive an email with, let's say, a pleading of a counterparty with an attached document who is claiming a certain amount of money with a deadline. And so we just made up that use case as an example. And what typically you would like to do in that case certainly is create a reminder in your calendar and create another red flag perhaps, and maybe also have an automated email sent to you to remind you again, things like that. So what would that look like in automation here, or how could that look like? So let's say here I have in my email account and I just received that email saying, dear Mr. Gabriel, please find attached our pleading of this date for your information. And then I also see that document here. There's certain information in there, the amount of money, a deadline of 14 days, and so on. So what the manual process now would look like is, okay, I extract this information, I read this through, and this is just an example, right? This could be a way longer document, for example. And I manually go to my calendar and put in a reminder and put in a red flag there, for example, right? Now, instead with an automation, what I could do as well here is just forward this email to our AI Robin backend. Robin is what we call that. I'll forward that email there. And then what happens in the backend automatically, and let me just show you what that would look like so you get an idea. In our AI backend, we have a ton of connectors that integrate with all sorts of systems. Here for this example, I've just set it up to connect to my email account and to connect to my Google Calendar, a couple of other things. And what we can set up here in this AI backend are automations that now frequently watch these emails coming in. For example, they could also watch databases or other systems, CRM systems, for example. These automations watch what emails are coming in, look at the attached documents, and AI then extracts the information and fills that information into a personal assistant user interface, which I will show in a moment. But just so you get an idea what this looks like, this is a simplified version of that. Here really it reads incoming emails, AI is applied, information is extracted from the document that you just saw, and automatically then in your personal assistant, this is now here what the end user would see. Then here tasks are being created. So here at the moment we're interested in the smart reminders. We come to this here later. So I go here and I see here's a list of tasks. At the moment there's only 2, right? So I had one in the past and that's already submitted. So I dealt with that earlier. That was another reminder, another email I forwarded. And now I just forwarded the one that I showed you. And I go in here and I see, okay, the AI backend understood from the document, okay, this was the counterparty, this was the amount of money. So this was all intelligently extracted through AI, right? And it understood, okay, there was some natural language text suggesting there's a deadline in there in 14 days. If I don't trust that, I can still click on here and actually I can see that document again and see if it all makes sense. So really Robin helps me to understand the key piece of information here. And I can then tell, yes, create me a reminder in the calendar on that date here, for example, or I can adjust it if I want it to be another date. maybe the reminder should not be an email, but the red flag should be a week later, another reminder in the calendar. And also I want to receive an email at this for this red flag, right, on that date. So I just submit that. And then again, the AI backend understands that I have now submitted something from Robin and creates the entries in the calendar and automatically sends out the emails if I wanted it to. Right, so here, for example, you see one of the events in my calendar here, the reminder, hey Henning, this is a reminder from your AI assistant, Robin, to review the file. And then here with the extracted file ID, just for the simplified demo here, I set it up like that. So yeah, so this is just an example what of a couple of things you could do. And when you think about this, this was really a not very complicated process, right? You receive an email and you understand, okay, this is again one of these pleadings where somebody claims some money with a deadline or something like that. And you know your AI backend is trained to understand that. So you just forward it to the AI backend, Automation Hero, and there an AI extracts all the relevant information pieces from it and then forwards that into the Robin user interface. And this is where you as a human log in and see all the different tasks. So in our example here, we just saw 2 tasks. One was already completed yesterday, perhaps, and the new one just appeared there. So you check that, you confirm that, you adjust it, whatever you want to do there. And as a result, in this example use case here, calendar reminders were created and also reminder emails were set up to be sent on these dates. And the AI backend can take care of all of that. So this was just an example. And so to give you an idea how the AI backend and the Robin user interface and the whole automation with different data sources and data inputs and data outputs can work together. In this example, we just set email and calendar as data endpoints, but this could really be anything. Can be databases, can be CRM systems, can be, you can do a Google search automatically in an automation if you need to. Really the data sources and the inputs and outputs, whatever you need, it can be integrated in these automations. Other examples, what you could imagine, for example, let's say you receive an email with a long 20 pages document where you actually, a legal document where you actually just want to figure out, okay, who is the witness? That's another perfect example. Just forward that email to our AI backend. In the email, write the question, who is the witness? Just write that natural language question. The AI in the backend will figure it out, send you a response email if we can set it up to do that, and then you know it, right? So that's, or you show it in Robin again, and there you can see the answer and compare it with the document side by side, if you prefer that, for example. Another use case could be document comparison. That's what Martin mentioned earlier, where you have an original document and you have another party who makes changes, right? And you would actually like to understand, are all the changes actually the ones that are highlighted, or are there other changes that maybe are missing? Or maybe there is no redlining in there, but still you need to identify the changes. So that's another example. Let me just quickly show you how something like that could look like. Right, again, the use case could be you send both documents in an email to the AI backend, and you bring that up here in this interface, and you see the snippets of the document, what the original text was, what the changed text was, and then here in with --, you see the pieces that were removed from the original, and with ++ in red, you see the pieces that were added, or whatever format you prefer this to be printed out. You could also then here look at the document, and the AI backend could highlight the changes. So here, just for the purpose of this demo, I put around, let the AI put around a orange rectangle here. So this is actually the paragraph of the, I think the original document. Or if you want to compare that with a change document, then here you see that. And again, this is just a quickly made up example how this could look like, right? So you could then page through all the different changes of these two documents and accept the change or reject the change and go to the next snippet where there is a difference. And then when you have submitted everything, again, the AI backend could recognize that, could understand that, and compose the final document with the changes you have accepted and not the changes you have rejected. For example, again, this is just an example how things like that can be set up. In the AI backend, where we put together the automations and the AI to do all that, this is very flexible, right? So however you need that. And just another example here that we have seen in the field is where people, I mean, companies receive in some cases very similar emails, still natural language text, but the email is generally saying most of the times where people are requesting specific forms to fill out, let's say maybe an order form or something like that. This can also be handled automatically. These emails can be understood, the right form documents, perhaps again PDF documents maybe, or Word documents can be selected from a repository and the email can be automatically replied, or the suggested reply can be listed as another task in Robin, and you can then just log in to Robin and accept to have the backend send out the email, right? But it's all prepared. You don't have to prepare that by yourself manually. So yeah, I hope that all made sense. Just, you know, various different use cases. How could it look like? How can Robin, the personal assistant, be used? How can the backend automation and the AI be used? And yeah, I hope this is a good good segue into a conversation with perhaps more use case ideas you have, or I would actually, I wonder if the ideas we presented here resonate, make sense to you, what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We actually have a number of questions that popped up throughout the webinar. Please keep them coming. We'd love to hear what you guys are seeing on your end. And, you know, again, if this resonated with you guys, our platform is pretty versatile, so it can really handle a lot of different types of scenarios or use cases. What we tried to show you is a combination of how different, I guess, tasks or processes might fit together in sort of this end-to-end solution. Kind of going back to what we were saying in the beginning, we do see a lot of the tools or options out there are pretty siloed. And so we kind of see what I call a Frankensteining tech stack out there. And so really our goal is to create something that's really easy for people to use on the end user side, that who really understand the business problems. They can develop, you know, the automations and the AI or intelligent automations that fit them. But I will kick off with a question or a couple questions that came in. And Henning, this one is probably for you. How high is the accuracy of the classification?
Yeah, I mean, that depends on the historical training data you have. When it comes to classification of emails, right? When you have the AI just monitor your email inbox, then you want the AI to be able to understand, is this actually even an email relevant for me, right? So for that kind of classification, intent detection, we have really high accuracies, something between 80 and 95% typically, but it really depends on the training data that's available. And as you know, as more data is being used and more information is being submitted through Robin by the human, the more data can be used to then further train the AI and improve over time. But initially, what we typically see ranges between 80 and 95%.
And sorry, maybe if you touched on this too, if you want to maybe explain a little bit more too about the Robin element and how that is part of the feedback loop of how data continuously is trained. How frequently would you say that model can be updated?
Well, the question is also how frequent is reasonable, right? In a production environment, maybe you don't want to update your AI every night. And also it's a question, do you even have significant more data in one more day, right? But what I think what can make sense is weekly, for example, but totally, for example, monthly. You know, over time you collect more data and you submit that to the AI to be retrained, and then you have a new AI model.
Henny, I think this will be another one for you. How do you handle huge agreements or pleadings of, let's say, 50 or more pages? How does that impact how this process is done? Or does it impact how this process is done?
No, it does not. Well, there is an impact, and that is the runtime in the AI backend. So let's say we have a very, so we have seen different use cases, right? Documents can be of different complexity for an AI to understand. So let's say we have a very complex AI model of maybe 2-3 gigabytes of size, right? Where we use TensorFlow deep learning models in the backend, and these can be pretty big when they're trained. Handling a 1-2 pages PDF document on average hardware can take typically something between half a minute or a minute. Of course, you can put in better hardware, then this improves the runtime. Now, 26 document pages, that will further increase the runtime, the computation time, to get the answers from the document that you asked the AI. Maybe it can even take a couple of minutes. That can happen. So it's not a real-time like environment necessarily, but I mean, I've never seen more than 5 minutes and you get the result. If you do need real-time like responses, not real-time, but something like between maybe 5 and 20 seconds, perhaps, then this can also be achieved. It just requires a more, you know, more proper setup of the infrastructure and the automation itself, but that can also be achieved.
I'm sure Martin can also test this. My time as a paralegal, it definitely took me longer than 5 minutes to read a 26-page document. So those were the days.
May I also ask a question? What I like is the intelligent question. So, but could you just, maybe I missed it, sorry if that was the case, but the difference between the normal search function and the intelligent search, because I think this is really interesting for my work today.
So common search, you know, is based on algorithms that search for certain patterns, or even the exact string match itself, or maybe even a fuzzy match, and gives you the results. Pretty much a brute force to get the answer. Where an intelligent search, the AI that we use for that, that's just another piece of our product. This is really based on a huge amount of documents that we use to train the AI. Millions of documents that really taught the AI to understand the content, to really, you know, the semantics of it, which is a different approach rather than you just search for the actual text.
Maybe along those lines too, about the intelligent searches, whether it can also run on the internet. So for example, for court decisions, or if you need a document in order to run that.
Yes, it depends where you want to search. So one thing that I just did, for example, recently is I used Google Search API and integrated that with our automation backend. So I was automatically searching for stock news, for example, stock news ticker, and that can be done with any search engine that has an API, right? So you totally can bring in information from the internet to the automation, to the AI. That's totally doable.
Just a quick heads up, we're reaching the top of, well, actually we're going to the quarter of the top of the hour. So just a reminder, feel free to put in your questions, but if we're not able to get to them because of time constraints, we will follow up with you after. But I do have a few more questions that have come through. So I'm trying to figure out which one to pick. This would be kind of going back to, I think, like the end-to-end process or automation that we were talking about. Can you send automated answers and combine that with a reminder and also store in the file of the case?
Yes, absolutely. If you remember the here, this little diagram, right? This is just an example. I mean, here on the left-hand side, you have one input data source. In that case, it's a simple email account. And on the right-hand side, you have two output data sinks. That's a calendar and again, an email account. But this could be, first of all, it could be at any stage, right? You can also in between, in the middle, output something, perhaps in a CSV file or into an Excel file and attach that Excel to an email and send that to somebody, or update a row into a database. So really anything you need can be plugged in there.
Fantastic, awesome, thank you, Henning. We talked a little bit about like how long it would take to search, well, to compare documents. Actually, that would be a little bit more about how to, I guess, how long would it take to compare documents of about 100 pages? I think we talked a little bit about time difference before, but not necessarily in comparing documents.
Yeah. So when you do that use case that I was just, you know, in a simplified way showing you in the Robin interface, where you have the different snippets and the differences and you accept or reject them. The beginning of that use case is you have the two documents and you send them in an email to our AI backend, right? And then the AI backend picks it up automatically, immediately, and processes these two documents and finds out all the changes. And then sends these changes into the Robin interface so you as a human can review that. That piece where the backend is extracting everything, that's just a matter of a couple of minutes. That's really not complicated. Then, of course, the question is, how long do you need to review and accept and reject that in Robin interface, right? Now, that certainly, I mean, depends how many changes are found and so on. But compared to doing this manually on a sheet of paper and turning the pages and everything and marking with a pen and so on, certainly you can imagine it's orders of magnitudes faster with such an interface.
Yeah, yes, I can. And then the last one that we have is, I guess, again, going back to the comparison of documents, that seems to be the hot topic. How is the comparison of the documents for the accuracy?
Yeah, well, that actually is 100% accurate because all changes are being detected, right? You cannot miss changes. I should say, though, not sure how technical the audience is, it makes a difference. Do you have documents that are like Word files, for example, or machine-created PDF files that are not scans, not pictures, but you know, PDF files that are generated? So if you have that, then you know the text data itself can directly be accessed. And then you have 100% accuracy. If you compare them, you find all the changes. If your documents, however, are scans or images, right? So you do not have the actual text information, but what you actually have is a picture. Then the AI needs to apply OCR. And then it's a different story. But I would say, if you are interested to make that use case work, let's look at the details, what documents you have, and then I'm sure we can find a good automation there that does save time. Because in the end, that's another thing perhaps to highlight. It's not so important how accurate things are. In the end, what counts is how much time do you save. And if things aren't accurate, then okay, the human needs to review, perhaps correct things in the Robin interface sometimes. That takes a little bit of time. But other instances of the same use case may not need human attendance. So they can be, these would be dark data extraction instances, for example. And typically what we see is in the same use case, there is a certain amount of data that's processed dark because the AI has a certain confidence threshold that we always know. And if the AI tells, well, I'm 90% or 95% confident, then we do not even show it in Robin anymore. We completely process it dark. So that is already time saved. And for the other instances where the AI is not that confident, then what we typically do is we display the results in Robin, and the human needs to then, that's attended automation, right? The human needs to correct, check, confirm, reject things. So that's where the accuracy is not high enough. So a human still needs to be part of the whole workflow. But in the end, what counts is for all the instances, the dark data extracted ones and the ones that needed human review, altogether, still, you saved a lot of time. And that's what counts, right? Not so much the actual accuracy.
And I would, and sorry if you said this and I'm just repeating it, just as a mention that the threshold can be set by, it can be customized. So you can say whatever
absolutely.
you want that, yeah. Wow, with that, we are actually at the end time. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Actually, if you want to just quickly, Henning, go to the very last slide after the Q&A, I'll just give a little thank you. Feel free to please check us out at automationhero.ai if you haven't already, and you can also reach out at hi@automationhero.ai if you want to follow up, or if you have any questions that you didn't get to, or if it's kind of got you thinking about your own use cases and you just want to see what that might look like. We're happy to talk you through that. As I mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, you know, some of you are on your automation journey, some of you haven't even started it yet and are maybe just starting to kind of kick ideas around. We're happy to, you know, help be a part of that process. Everyone, take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and if you're in the US, enjoy the long weekend with the Thanksgiving holiday, and take care and enjoy. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.